And quite frankly, there's a very high chance that it's going to be struck on the ban list in some form or another. Well, guess that didn't take too long. Now, if only the TCG could actually get our ban list within a reasonable time period that isn't over 6 months. What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. Now, today there's some big news for the OCG because they actually just got announced their April 1st, 2017 Forbidden and Limited list. Now, this is crazy because there are so many hits on this list that directly impact the meta, and I'm just gonna flat out say it. Zodiac got fucking crucified. Like, holy fucking shitballs, it is that bad. So I'm gonna go over the discussion of all the different hits that got taken on the OCG format, and then I'm also gonna talk about the TCG and how this might affect us as well, assuming we ever get our fucking ban list. So moving into the forbidden cards on the list, so there is Zodiac Trident, Zodiac Barrage, and then there's the Tyrant Neptune as well. So the Tyrant Neptune, just to quickly cover, I believe the Tyrant Neptune had some weird OTK/FTK that was enabled through something like the Predaplants or there was some weird reason that this card got banned, and it's pretty much just a preemptive hit because Konami just didn't want it in the game anymore. Whatever the reason is, it's gone. Like I said, I don't know the exact reason, but moving on to what we really care about, Zodiac Trident and Zodiac Barrage. So Zodiac Trident, yeah, Trident is pretty much the best Zodiac monster to come out of the extra deck because it provides so much disruption, not only just during your turn, but during your opponent's turn as well. It's really funny that we've come full circle that a card that has to target a face-up card on the field is actually good, but you know, Trident has been putting in a lot of work, and it looks like Konami of Japan decided that it was time to go, being with how prolific Zodiac was. And on that same note, Zodiac Barrage is gone as well, and I feel like Zodiac Barrage is a lot more justified because Barrage, I've talked about this many different times, but the fact that Barrage essentially makes it so that the archetype can dodge being hit on the normal summon. So if you were to do Solemn Warning on your opponent's summoned Ratpier, they can just barrage and summon out something else and just pretty much keep going off from there. So it really didn't matter if you got hit on the normal summon, or it allowed you to play around so many different cards that would just potentially disrupt the Zodiac combo, but Barrage is just an unfair card and just allowed you to play around it. On top of that, you didn't have to destroy itself, you could destroy other cards, which means you get multiple uses out of it if the board state was correct, and the fact that it also provides Xyz material in case you ever needed it, or the situation arose that you could actually put it underneath one of your Zodiac Xyz monsters. So overall, I'm not too surprised that Zodiac Barrage got hit because of the power that this card gives to the archetype. But Trident, I don't know, that might be a bit excessive, especially once we get into the limited cards as well, because that was the basic play. You know, your ending combo would end on a Trident and a Daigusto Emerald. You know, maybe a couple back row, you might have some hand traps as well. So I guess now that Trident's out of the game, that's one less thing you have to worry about. I guess it's just kind of odd because now if you're going to play Zodiac, if you're even going to play it at all, which we'll get into in a second, that you would have to end on something like Emerald and Broad Bowl, which just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So getting on to the limited, because this is where it gets even more interesting. So newly limited are Witch of the Black Forest, Zodiac Ratpier, Blackwing Gofu, the Vague Shadow, and Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. So I'm just going to get right into Ratpier since we're on the topic of Zodiac. This is pretty much just the nail in the coffin. Like, if Barrage and Trident getting banned weren't enough, they just kicked the deck while it was down and limited Ratpier to 1. And I really feel like just by limiting Ratpier, that almost just does the deck in enough, because if you don't have the rat combos, the deck really loses a lot of its consistency and power, because that's where it all came from. That whole rat combo is what makes the archetype so good and so splashable. So by removing Ratpier, you know, everything else is kind of okay, but I don't know. I guess the OCG kind of has a thing where when a deck is really good, they will just neuter the living shit out of it, and this is just another example of them doing so. Now, Witch of the Black Forest is interesting because, to my knowledge, I'm not actually sure if there's even an errata for Witch of the Black Forest. I mean, if there was, it'd probably be similar to Sangan, but even if there was, I still think those limits are really odd anyway because, or those erratas rather, because Witch of the Black Forest and Sangan are so slow in today's metagame, and even though Witch of the Black Forest has a lot more targets than Sangan does, because having a monster with 1500 or less defense is much easier to acquire in the meta than 1500 or less attack, because so many powerful monsters have, you know, most of the time 0 defense, but they have really low defense as a general rule. So having Witch of the Black Forest back, errata or not, I don't really think it's going to make that big of a difference. It is a level 4, so, I mean, there could be some rank 4 plays, but even with that, like, I just feel like it's such a slow card that it really doesn't matter if this card came off the list, errata or not. Now, Blackwing Gofu, the Vague Shadow. I am laughing so hard at this because yesterday's video, I was discussing this, how it might get hit, because the fact that Blackwing Gofu essentially creates a 1-card Decode Talker, or realistically any 1-card Link 3 monster that has very generic requirements like Decode Talker, is just absolutely absurd. And I like that they limited it rather than banning it, so decks have a potential power play, but I also don't like how this hits a bunch of other decks that could play Gofu, like Monarchs. Monarchs were playing Gofu because it's a really good card, not only for the Karaz draw engine, but it also has a Lure of Darkness synergy as well. Also, people playing it in Metal Foes. Gofu was a really cool splashable card, so now I'm kind of sad that it's limited, solely because the Link mechanic made Gofu broken, and that's really no surprise. But I do feel for the better of the game, it's probably a good realistic hit that we should have seen coming, and apparently I predicted less than 24 hours before we even saw this list. Now, last but not least on here, we have Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. And this is really funny to me as well, because Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, a lot of us can agree, is probably one of the most unfair cards ever created. And on top of that, the OCG hates board wipes. I mean, if you look at that, all they have is a Dark Hole and 3 copies of Torrential Tribute, which 3 Torrential is still incredibly strong, but it's not proactive. It's very reactive compared to our format currently comprised of 1 Regeki and 2 Dark Holes. So now that Interrupted Kaiju Slumber is going to 1 as well, I think that's, you know, that's saying a lot that this game's really going to slow down, because Kaiju Slumber just enabled so many crazy OTKs, especially we've seen in Zodiac Kaiju. So I think, again, this is probably a good hit. Arguably, Kaiju Slumber is better than Dark Hole at this point. Now, moving on to Semi-Limited. Semi-Limited has a lot of cool choices as well. We have... Oh my god. Oh my god. He's back! He's back! He's at 2! He's off the list! He's off the list! He's not at 1 anymore! So we have Elemental Hero Stratos. This should be no surprise, but Elemental Hero Stratos has been at 1 in the OCG, so they've had it for a very long time anyway, which has just made Heroes that much more viable of a deck. But now that we have Stratos at 2, this makes things really interesting, because Stratos can search himself, but he can also search anything else, and he also has the back row destructive capabilities. So I'm actually really happy to see Stratos back at 2. We don't have it here in the OCG, or in the TCG rather, but I'm really hoping this is a sign of things to come, that maybe, just maybe, we'll get him at 1. Now, moving on to the other cards, Armageddon Knight going to 2. We have it at 3 in the TCG, so that's not too relevant. Fairy Tail Snow getting semi-limited is very interesting. I don't know if this is a preemptive hit because of the Link monsters, but I think it's a very good call, because 3 copies of Fairy Tail Snow, especially in a 60-card mill deck, is a little bit crazy, and if you have to deal with 2 or 3 copies of Snow, sometimes that's almost impossible to deal with. So I kind of like that Snow is semi-limited, But at the same time, you know, it is a 60 card deck, and the chance of you milling them is still rather low. So I don't know. I really love Fairy Tale Snow as a card, but I don't exactly know how this is going to shape things up moving forward. Goyo Guardian. Remember, Goyo Guardian in the OCG actually has that errata that it requires like an Earth tuner now. So Goyo Guardian's bad in the OCG anyway, so that doesn't even matter. I believe we have it at 3 in our format anyway. Ignister to 2 is kind of cool because, you know, just that's kind of pendulum support, if anything. Brionac to 2, remember Brionac has the Japanese errata as well, so it's a little bit different, but I think that's a pretty fair call as well. I find it hilarious that they put Tenki to 2 and not 3, considering the fact that Zodiac is fucking dead, so why do you even need Tenki at 2 at this point? I don't know if they're still scared of people playing Zodiac, but the fact that Tenki is at 2, they still have Terratop at 1, Barrage is banned, Dryden's banned, and Rat Piers at 1. That's just fucking hilarious to me. And also Brain Control is semi-limited as well. Remember, Brain Control has the OCG errata as well, that it can only target a normal summoned monster, I believe. Now, moving on to the Unlimits. The Unlimits are actually really exciting because the OCG has Moral Attack at 3, and that's really cool, and that's a change I would really love to see here in the TCG as well, because the Artifact Engine is already being splashed in so many decks, but we only have 1 Moral Attack, which kind of limits how effective the Artifact Engine can be. But with 3 Moral Attack, now we're talking. We're getting back into like hat format with that. And then Magician of Faith, we've had Magician of Faith at 3 forever, so that doesn't matter. And they also had Lamia at 1, I believe. I'm not sure if it was at 2 on the last list, but now it's at 3. We still have it at 3, but obviously DDDs for us were completely different from the OCG, but they obviously moved that to 3 because now they know that, you know, DDDs are going to have a lot of trouble being able to be effectively played moving into the Link format, which starts for them about a week from now at the time of recording this video. So before I end this video, guys, I kind of just wanted to quickly discuss on how this is going to affect the TCG, and I kind of discussed this in my previous video I made about this when they got their last list in January, and we never got our new list. You know, I was saying that, you know, they're not going to hit things like, they might hit Tenki or Terratop in our format because that was kind of what they did in Japan at the time. But you have to remember, we're still a couple formats behind. We don't have Maximum Crisis yet, so we don't have the True Kings. There's so many different things at play here. Their Link summoning starts in a week, whereas ours doesn't start till July. So we still have so many months to go. So even hypothetically, if we were to get a ban list in April, I still think they're only going to hit cards like Terratop and Tenki to kind of help maybe slow Zodiac down a little bit for our format to kind of, I guess, bring it in balance just a little bit. But at this point, who the fuck knows? Because if we've gone 2 to 3 lists in the OCG before the TCG has even gotten its own, then long live the Eternal format, everyone, because we're going to be in it for a long time, or at least until Link summoning comes around the corner. But guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this OCG ban list and how you think it's going to affect the TCG, again, assuming if we ever get a list. I'd really like to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much again. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and also be sure to back me on Patreon, because by pledging just $1 a month, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.